Right, well, we are live on YouTube, and I am
Just by the sound of
coughing
it.
and spluttering away here. We're live on YouTube and still doing pretty well here, mate. Let me share my screen.
I
How's
haven't
everybody
had a look at
doing?
the footy. Still firing okay.
Yeah, it's still firing along, mate. It's still bubbling around. Yep, not doing too badly at all. If you lose me, let me know because I think it's having YouTube open and I'll just shut it down.
Cool.
So what we're going to do is this screen here. Yeah, let's have a little look at the FTSE. It's I suppose in some respects, it's doing what was assumed it may do, which is pretty much go nowhere. If we look at these on short-term timeframes again, you guys let me know as well. Hey Ravinda, how you doing? Hey John, how you doing? SF. We are still here. Am I still there, Jeff?
Yes, mate. Gotcha.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, let's have a look at the FTSE. So this is where we're at with the FTSE. We are just bubbling around. I mean, the monthly pivot isn't really providing anything in the way of support and resistance right now. Interesting, really. That and I suppose you can build a strategy and theory around pivots, but you have to be aware that if one level to look at the market was absolute, then it'd be a lot simpler than trading actually is. And you know, the monthly pivot is just, I mean, maybe on the whole it is acting as a level of resistance, but really, I think we're probably looking at this level over here as our resistance zone, and the monthly pivot just happens to be there as well. So that looks like our genuine resistance zone. Unable to get through that point just yet. Coincides with this level here, so pretty good level, pretty good horizontal level. It would, I think, have to break down this trend line to probably start to change the sentiment or the momentum that has carried through the daily pivot. The current day's pivot anyway is obviously going to act as another potential level, but this now looks like, now we've had hour over hour of this, and this is looking like a bull flag currently. So if the bull flag breaks down, and when we would just probably magnifying a little bit, then our bull flag is this here, and it is also a triangle as well. So we do have a pattern that is going on right now. Still no reason to come out this trade at this stage. There's no information here that suggests that we are changing. If anything, we're managing to hold up fairly well. So going back to the hourly chart now, we can see that this area here is the flag, and if we just measure from the pole, the way we measure is from the low end right into the pole, right into the flag, sorry, and then from there, what we want to do is take our pole and put it on the bottom end of the flag, and just make an assumption of where that can go. Now, you know, there's different where different areas that you can measure it from, the top end or the bottom end. Let's be conservative and see what that might what price that might give us, and that will give us in a general area. So if we flip back to the daily now. Well, there's not really anything there that I can see at this stage. Let's just check the weekly. Yeah, there's nothing major there. So if there is any pause in upside of that particular point, I don't think it's going to last too long. So I'm not going to use that measurement right now. I'm just going to look at this as the trend line instead. Let's see if the trend line gives us anything else, which it may. There's a little channel there that we might be looking at instead. Let's just take the measurement of the channel. Now, obviously, that's also going to have to come outside of the channel and break through to give us another potential area. We can't really draw this just yet until, you know, it either breaks through the channel or continues to kind of float its way up. I like the 6,000 level, you know, as a potential turnaround point. Now, whether it does actually genuinely turn from there, I don't know. But what I'm looking for, if we kind of if we stay with this this particular upside until the upside is done, then we are looking for something similar that happened over here. So we can see there's a level of resistance, but then it came through the resistance, and then it kind of, that resistance level kind of becomes the support line here. It dipped a little bit below it, but it did become supports. But then what we're looking for is for the market to either give us that lower high, or better still, break through and then give us a lower high on the after it's given us a lower low as well. So we don't really have it here. It would have still been a tricky trade to kind of make the assumption that that's breaking down. So I'm just looking to see whether this structure is going to break down before I flip positions. I am keen to flip to the downside, but at this stage it's still running, mate. So there's not really a lot to do. You know, profits in the bank right the way up here. You know, as long as it continues to push forward from this point, there's profit in the bank either way. Whether we do it with stop management or whether people have taken a little bit off the table already. Either way, it looks pretty good, and we can still dip down to this point here, and it's still potentially be some sort of add point there. So that there's opportunity still that's making itself available here to the upside on pullbacks. So right now there's not a lot to do except look out for another way into this. We don't want to get in here because we're right on top of the resistance zones. You know, this resistance zone that we're looking at on the 4 hour, giving us this particular horizontal level. It is providing some resistance here. So we pop through there, then we really are good to go. But if anybody's interested in this particular pattern, this is called a cup and handle. So we've got, always in the market there are patterns in amongst patterns, but the bigger picture pattern really here is this, and I'm going to draw the other one because it's just easier. And there's the cup coming down there. So we have a cup and a handle, and the different measured moves on this would be from the neckline of the cup, or we could use the handle. So I think either way, we are looking for further. Now that the handle, it looks like it's going to lead us into this point here. The cup would lead us much higher, and maybe even a suggestion of maybe beyond where I'd be comfortable. So I think we'd use the cup, sorry, the handle as our potential measured move. But it does, you know, when we're looking at that does seem to lead us into this this gap zone, where, you know, whether it pushes up a little bit higher or whether it actually starts to pause at the gap again and turn around, I don't know. But I think we are looking really for this to break out. And if it does break out, then we don't need to use the flag. We can wait right up until at least 62.73 or 62.75. As it's a bit cleaner and a bit more round. So just got to manage it and keep it going, mate. Not get too close to it. I'm not putting stops too close. I want to give it some room and see what gives with it. So Ravinder, how you doing, buddy? Fad, how you doing? Raymond, how you doing? Helen, how you doing? Anybody else got any other charts they want to look at, or any thoughts? Or in actual fact, Jeff, we've just finished up with the 2 o'clock bars. Is there anything that you want to look at here?
Mate, I'm pretty much like you. I'm very much in trade management mode, which is kind of weird because it's only Tuesday. We should be looking for nice entries rather than trying to manage trades. But, you know, if they come early, they come early. And that's pretty much just what happened yesterday. I'll take you through a couple of things that are of interest, in particular for those of you who have been in the shows that we have been trading. Obviously, you'll be in a couple of positions that I am still in, and I'm trying to share screen. It won't work.
There you go, mate. I've just passed it over to you.
Okay. There we go. Happy days. And I think we will have time today because it's less manic today because of the situation that that is confronting us, that we should be able to go through the pound trades and how to journal them, which will give you a good idea of how to journal in general, we'll be going through that hopefully. In fact, I'd like to get to that before the half hour and the open of US session. So let's very, very quickly go around the grounds. Those of you who are in the pound Aussie trade, and gee whiz, I hope those of you who are in the Telegram group should be in the pound Aussie trade, because I gave you plenty of warning of it. If you are not in the Telegram group, let me see if I can fix that for you. I can't give you a link, but I can put a link on the screen. I'm going to do that now for you, if I can find it. Okay, here it comes. So those of you who want to join the Telegram group, absolutely free. Lots of interesting posts in there from not just Ash and myself, but from, I think, all the senior traders in the Actions to Wealth team. Get something in there. If you can't read it, let me know and I'll read it out to you. But essentially it is https:// you all know that little sign, then it's small t dot small me / capital L small e ARN capital T RADING capital F small OR capital F capital R capital E capital E. Okay, so if you want to have a look at that, and I strongly suggest you do, that's where Ash and I posted a lot of our stuff that's not in these shows, and so do other traders. So that's a totally free resource. All right, so I'll leave this one up just for a tick. And those of you who are in the trade will remember that we traded this bar here. We're now way past 1-to-1 on the trade. We've taken profit and we've got a very clear target here in the confluence area around about the 197.45 mark, as I've got it here. I don't intend to close the entire trade at that point, because I still think this tweezer top sitting here is going to be the ruler for, I'll say, a considerable period of time. So I'm really looking forward to having that get through all of this support, come back and retest it, and then probably look for a reversal of what has been a prolonged and pronounced and strong trend. So we're very much counter trend here. Are we trying to pick the top? Well, no, not really, because we would have traded it from up here if that were the case. What we're trying to do is trying to take advantage of the confirmation of the top, if this is indeed it. And that is generally a lower high in the case of a top. No, we can't type the link, unfortunately. Or somebody else probably can, but Ash and I can't, because it'll just instantly be removed by YouTube, and they will probably send us a rude letter in the mail. So we can't, unfortunately, post the link. That's it there. If anybody has read it and can try to post it themselves, that would be maybe okay, but I doubt it. I don't think they like links posted. So with pound Aussie, there's nothing to do if you have taken profit, except that I have closed my stop up a little bit. I've taken it to entry. So this can only be a winning trade. If we do get back to here to the top of the range and put in another lower high, I will enter again. And I will scale back in if we get through here and retest what essentially is the neckline here. I think that would be a pretty cool addition to the trade.
But so just incidentally, mate, because it's the pound, Boris Johnson, the most recent information on him is that he's doing well.
Okay, so is that going to rally the pound?
I don't think. No, I don't think so. I don't think it's. Did it dip enough off the back of that? I mean, was there a dip? I know there was a little bit of a dip.
It's being its very volatile self today so far, but it is bullish.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is volatile. There's no question about that. You know, as soon as you get into a run, bang. Although that's totally predictable. You know, it hits the monthly pivot and comes back. I think I said that in the UK session, where we wouldn't like really to be trading this long from the point that we traded it from. And that turned out to be the case. Well, I'll take you through that trade in the not too distant future. So pound Aussie still going. No reason to do anything except, as I said, I've moved my stops to entry and taken profit on the trade. Euro Aussie is exactly the same. Those of you who are in this trade, that's going rather well. We've about 3.5 to 1 on that one now. We traded this bar here. Classic scenario of mine where I like to trade at a support level that looks like that. In other words, we've run away from the support level, and then I like to get the leg back. In particular, if we've got a couple of pivots sitting there, almost a perfect double cross, as I showed you guys yesterday, I think, and that's the way it's panned out. There's a double cross there. That's worked out pretty well, as you can see. So that's Euro Aussie. That's the other trade that we're in. That I'm not sure if you guys are in it or not. It's very, very difficult to remember which I put where in what show. Pound CAD is another one that's come back to the pivots now. I actually quite like that. And we've been in this trade for 3 or 4 days now as well. And that's, we got in up here. That's looking quite okay. Nothing to do here except I haven't got this on this particular chart, but I've also got my stops at entry on that one. CAD Swiss is interesting because we're at the top of a channel. And pardon me, we're looking for this to maybe turn around in the next little bit. I'm looking at the 4-hourly chart here. Don't see a trading opportunity unless you like that bar there. I don't. That's not my favorite way to trade. I'd rather see a test of the daily and monthly pivot, then come back, give me a lower high off the top here. Then I can look to trade it short. So that'll be the same on every time frame. Pound Kiwi. Yeah, okay. The reason I want to have a look at Pound Kiwi is we're at a beautiful place to trade, or very close there too. But you've got to have the right scenario. You've got to have the right signal here. We're locked in between the daily pivot and this confluence of support and resistance. At this point, I've got to be a bull because we haven't been able to break that level. But the daily pivot is a bit of an issue. What I'd like to see is the daily pivot break and then pull back and retest it. Then we can trade it up to the pivots here, the weekly and the monthly pivot. But that's not happening at the moment. Euro Aussie, was that this morning, was it? I don't think so.
No, Euro Aussie was yesterday. We were in this one.
Yeah, I've been in that since yesterday. Oh, someone's saying it's a wave rider trade today. Okay, got it. Got it. I gave a trade this morning though, and for the life of me, I can't. I think it was Aussie something. Swissy, maybe. I'll have a look at my other chart shortly and tell you what that was. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I think it's going okay. Let me have a look actually. CAD Swiss is still going fine. What did we trade this morning? Was anyone in the show this morning? I don't
know. we traded the pound.
Wasn't Aussie yen, though I wish I'd traded Aussie yen. I traded Aussie against something. Maybe it was the Swissy. On the daily charts. No, I'll pick it up later, guys. I can't quite remember what it was. I'll have to have a look at my accounts on my other chart in a little bit. So I'm keen to trade Pound Kiwi because of where it is. This is an excellent area to trade from. Reason: the stronger the level that we're at, the stronger the confluence. Generally, you'll find the more the candles or the next move will be, the stronger it will be, and the longer it will be, and generally the quicker it will get there. So at this stage, I'm a bull because of the fact we've been unable to break this level, but that will change if this level breaks and we get a retest. Then I'll be in like you wouldn't believe, like a shark on a mackerel. I'll be looking to trade that short. So stand by for that one. Euro yen, wanted that to pull back to the pivots to get into that as well. Yen's in a bit of strife. The traditional safe haven currency has now gone into panic mode in Japan. As I understand, a state of emergency has been declared, as it would be, as it has been in most places. But they've got an issue with financing, as I understand it. they're about to release bonds to a degree they've never done before that I'm aware of. And this is probably going to have an effect on the yen, one would think.
And couple that with the fact that we're very much risk on now, aren't we?
Yeah, it certainly appears to be that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't know if that's going to last, Ash. I really don't.
Oh, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. I mean, this is the thing. If I analyze the yen, doing any work on the yen, which I will quickly just do on my own charts here, but I won't show you just for a second. I'll let you finish. But if I'm looking at the yen, then I would look at that. Well, I was just checking it out on the weekly. The daily levels looks like it's a tricky one, actually, isn't it? It's kind of in no man's land at the minute. The dollar yen. I wouldn't be that keen to trade it. There is.
It is, but you look at everything else against the yen. Aussie yen's flying. CAD yen's flying. That's it. CAD yen. That was the one we traded this morning. There it is. So we traded this bar here. Have taken first profit on that one as well. So stop loss is still underneath the entry bar. This was just a classic ABC trade. Break the and again nearly a double cross. It's the same scenario. We crossed the monthly pivot, came back across it. Not a great candle, as I said this morning to the guys, but it's there, and we probably need to take that, because on the bigger picture, if you have a look at that, we've come, and I think I spoke about this last night as well. We did come back inside the range, and we did get that little retest of the monthly pivot on this 4-hour chart. So that was good enough to trade. That may well have some good prospects as well. If we can stay above this range, this mini range here, I think we're well and truly in a good spot to trade this. Maybe even, well, certainly there's a few take profit levels, but I'd be targeting this area here and probably the top of the range in extension. We found it, CAD yen, that was it. As I said, it's pretty much all about management at the moment, or waiting for price to pull back or get into a range. Euro pound, we placed euro pound yesterday in this show, didn't get triggered. I've still got the order there, as a matter of fact. I
remember that one. Yeah,
it was trading the false break of that line there, right? So back underneath retest, didn't trigger. And then I looked at this candle this morning. I thought, oh, that looks okay, because we've had retrace, couldn't quite get to the low here, but now we've had another crack at the high. I would be interested in that under probably most circumstances. The reason I didn't trade that this morning is probably because of the monthly pivot here that's untested. And if you have a look at the daily chart, I don't think this pullback's big enough. I don't think the retracement's big enough. I like this level here far more. So around about the monthly pivot area. So I've held back on that one. And I do think this has got prospects of going up to this area, and it's there that I'd prefer to look for the shorts. So if you have still got that order in the market, then I would recommend that you can it, as I'm trying to do here at the moment. Delete. There we go. So that's euro pound from yesterday, but still keen to get short, but only from here. Don't forget, we have been short since up here, and we got out of that on last Thursday or Saturday, can't quite remember. So, mate, really that's it as far as potential is concerned at the moment. But, you know, if we shoot back into these ranges, or we get that that pullback that I'm looking for on a couple, then I think we'll be okay to go. Aussie yen in particular, I'm keen on, but gee, it's got a lot of. There's no way I can trade long from here. It's too far gone.
It's difficult, that one, isn't it? Do you know? Somebody's just asking about oil and WTI, and this is the thing. You know, like Jeff is with Ravinder. Jeff was just saying about. In fact, I'll just take the screen briefly, Jeff, if you're all right with
Sure.
that. As Jeff is saying with the pound, it's similar with pound euro, similar with WTI in a lot of respects. You know, that nothing has really happened just yet. And you have to, at this particular stage, technically speaking, it can go either way. And fundamentally speaking, it could go either way, because it's just about whether the Russians and the Saudi Arabians actually do get back together and start to, the Saudis limiting production, that the Russians effectively agreeing to sit down. But while that's not going on, I'm not that keen on the upside with it. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because the fact of the matter with WTI is, if there was a data point down here, with the Chinese deciding that they were going to pick up some of the slack with some of the supply, that did help. And it was only when Trump tweeted that we get the breakout. So there was opportunities after things were announced, to take it here, take it here. Now we're kind of stuck in a bit of a range with it, and I want, this really, you either wait for the next announcement, and just take the opportunity. It's going to be a bit more volatile and a bit more hairy to do, and not necessarily that easy. Or you make a guess, and I think you would be guessing at this point. You'd be guessing on what direction it's going to go in, because certainly it's under pressure at these levels, but by the same token, it's being held up at these levels. So while this particular pattern is going on, which is a bit of a strange one when you kind of look at it, it looks like, we're definitely getting some lower highs here, but the lows are continuing to hold. So I suppose, my personal view on oil is probably still for downside. I don't know how much slack the Chinese have taken, to be honest. And if I knew that, then it might make this a little bit easier. But we still got a problem with travel. We've still got a problem with demand, with the whole situation with oil.
We've got a situation here in Tasmania where service stations are closing because there is no demand for their product.
Yeah. So, that in itself, I think we are getting a little bit lulled into a false sense of security, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see oil down. But we probably, if we're going to trade this with a bit of measure, if we trade it properly, we can't trade it short here anyway. There's just not enough room. But we could wait for a breakdown, and if we do get the breakdown and it closes below the weekly pivot, then I think looking for the shorts again is well and truly on, and we may well go beyond this low as well. There is sentiment cycles on just about every market that you can look at. So oil would be no different. There was fear, and now we are probably in the the counter reaction to the fear. But it would suggest that there's one more leg down where we're going to get some discouragement. I'm not too keen on the long. I have to say, I think the long is purely on hot air at this stage. But the caveat is, as I said, I don't know how much the Chinese are picking up. If their numbers are astronomically high, then maybe things change. But we do have to remember that China is still going to have some problems with their economy, as the other economies in the world will suffer. So I think the oil story is probably a little bit of a blowout. We might see a little bit of further upside, but I'd still be quite keen on a short with oil, just as I would be with the FTSE, and like Jeff is with the euro pound. I kind of see the same thing going on with the euro pound. I see the euro pound also being a shorting opportunity, maybe at the monthly pivot. Maybe even where we are, I don't know. I think the situation with Boris Johnson will probably dictate what's going to happen. It certainly looks at this stage on this 4-hour chart that this is bottoming out a little bit, which suggests that there could be a spring to the upside, but somewhere around about this price, I still think we're looking at the shorts, and there are trend lines and patterns, right the way along here, which may even cage it in a little bit, so it might not even get there. So short with euro pound, short with WTI is my personal sentiment, and short FTSE. But while the markets are moving in the opposite direction to the overall big picture trend, which is what we're looking at here. This is the weekly chart, and the weekly chart, for the weekly to change its big picture, it still needs, if you think about it, we always need to break through an area of resistance to start becoming the bulls in the market again. we haven't really found where that resistance is yet, because it hasn't genuinely failed yet. It's given us a few bars, but on this longer term time frame, the weekly, we haven't seen where that resistance point is, and it may well be here, or it may be a little bit higher. But until that happens, without resistance, we can't then break it to define support. So it's a bit like that with oil as well. So I'm still very much in the camp that would be looking for downside with oil, but I'm just not really sure on the price, and probably not in front of the data enough on the price. US market has just opened up, and the FTSE 100 continues to stretch its wings and legs to the upside. Let's just have a quick check on the US markets as well. S&P is also giving us a bit of a bull flag here, so suggesting some further moves higher. Dow Jones Industrials, it looks exactly the same as it probably will do. And the Nasdaq, where's the Nasdaq? Not sure where the Nasdaq is. Here we go. US Tech. Here we go. This is the Nasdaq. So all ships rise in a rising tide, and I think that's what we got going on right now. So FTSE, if you're in the FTSE and you're holding on to positions at this stage, there's no reason to do anything but ride the long. The Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq continue to suggest that if at very worst we hold here, and obviously at very best we actually do start to move forward, possibly fairly significantly. I just don't know. So Ravinder took a WTI trade yesterday and then closed 50% on the DR1 and remaining. I'm a bit in a loss, thinking if I should close the trade to secure profit. I earn selling 50% of the market is not moving much. Okay, so watching and listening, time to catch up with a journal. Great. Well done, John. That's great, mate. Do you know what? That's a really good attitude, and it's a really good way to think. You know, when things aren't going your way, or you just don't understand the market, go and do some work. You know, go do some work outside pulling a trigger. We don't have to be live in the market all the time. There's plenty of other things we can do. So Ravinder, my my view is, when you get into a market, to try and second guess what's going to happen becomes difficult. Now, I'm not trying to second guess the FTSE. I'm just going to wait until it unfolds. Now, with WTI, what is going to suggest the unfolding of this really is it to break under the weekly pivot. And because of that, you may well give some money back. If you put a stop under this weekly pivot somewhere, you may well give some money back. And if oil is going to be coming down, of course you will give some money back. But if you don't do it this way, if you don't allow your trade just to kind of breathe and go, that's WTI trade or gold trade or euro dollar trade in 50 trades time. You'll manage the same way. You'll try and second guess it and take your profit, and then it will take off. So really, what we need to do is just allow things alone. Just leave things alone. The more we trade, the less we make. The more we mess about with our trades, the less we make. So as long as your stops are safe under here, then there's not really, and you may end up, I don't know what your 50% is. I know DR1, I don't have DR1 lines on my chart, but if you've managed to secure profit, then it's just about then allowing yourself to make the most possible out of this trade. While protecting what's left, in the market. Because if you close it here, two things can happen. It's going to take off, and you'll be, pretty annoyed with yourself, or it comes and stops you out, and you'll be happy that you managed to take the trade off. I suppose three things could happen, or it just floats around here and does nothing. So if it floats around here and does nothing, the best position to be in is live in the market in profit, because then you can just wait and see if the market eventually goes your way. It's a really good position to be in when you've got a free trade, and you really should let it just go. 150 pips, that's brilliant, mate. Well, is your stop under the weekly pivot? And if it is, and it's still in profit under the weekly pivot, my personal feeling about any trade is that you just leave it be, and then look for other opportunities. This one could continue to the upside, because it's almost impossible to pick where the market's going to turn when there's no news and data. We don't really know what the sentiment is right now with oil. In fact, the sentiment probably is pretty benign across the board. Great. I would leave it there, mate. Honestly, I would leave it there.
It's a funny feeling you find out when the time comes of it, it'll move, and it'll move fast.
Yes.
Because there'll be a very strong reason why it does so.
Yes.
My answer to your question would be, what reason do you have to change? If you have got a reason, then change it. If you haven't got a reason, then don't change it. That's pretty much an oversimplification of the situation, but that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the thing is, if your reason for taking it off is because you want to secure the money, then you're going to find trading really difficult. Because it's just that I say this when I kind of do the sessions on a last night and on a Thursday. We have got to take the human element out of trading. Oh no, but do you know, mate? The experience will come, but the most important thing is that you build the correct experience and the correct action and the correct management when you're in the trade. And it really is the correct thing to do with trading, is just to accept that some you'll win, some you'll lose, some you won't win as much, and some you'll absolutely hit it out the park. But the price will tell you everything. As long as you're in a secure area where the trend changes, so you know that you are wrong, then it's fine. You should leave it and move on to something else, and just watch your balance kind of like flicking along as it stays in this trade. Because really with your accounts, it's much better if you can have a portfolio of about 5 to 10 trades. I wouldn't suggest any more than that. I think that's, getting to 10 is a lot. But if you can have a portfolio where you've got, 5 to 10 live in the market, you're in a great place, because then all you're doing is just moving stops, and letting them all play out. So I would now focus somewhere else. When this moves up a leg, then you manage it. If it doesn't, then leave it. But where else can you put your focus? What other great trades can you get on? What did you do with oil? Go back and journal it and analyze it. And when you note down what you did this time or what you got returned this time, do the same thing next time and note down the same thing. What did you return? What was the returns? And over time, you may actually find that it's better to close the trades. You may find that you've allowed yourself to lose 5% of what you could have made every time you left it in the market. And that's the other aspect of it, really. It's impossible to answer to somebody what they should do with a trade that isn't generic. The generic thing to do is to take your human side out, put your stops in place and go. But the truth is, only you know really how you're managing. Only you know where you really got in and what got you in and what got you to take profit. And you really need to analyze exactly what it is that you're doing to know exactly what those returns are. We do need to get, you're welcome, mate. We do need to get to the journal, don't we, Jeff? We just seem to always run out of time. I think we're just going to have to pre-prepare properly.
Yeah, look, maybe we start with the journal. I don't know. Maybe we can get to it. If you've got really nothing else, let me know, and I'll quickly go through the 30-minute charts and give a brief explanation as to why I'm not trading them at the moment.
Great. Okay, mate. No problem. All right. Well, the market's, as I say, the market's pretty benign. The FTSE is just struggling to get anywhere. It's just staying where it is. So there's not really a lot going on, and it might well be the same tomorrow. Oh, incidentally, we talked about the German numbers earlier on. So I did a bit of digging on that, and actually they're only from February. So that's why those numbers are not as bad as we would have thought. So it didn't hamper Germany.
It's kind of we're in a bit of a crossover period where the numbers aren't really giving us a clear indication of coronavirus impact.
No,
they will next month, definitely.
Yes, and that might be the time that we really see some genuine movement back down again.
Oh, you're done, mate, are you? Okay.
I'm done. Yeah. Do you know what? And the other thing, Ravinder, is that I want to say that I really appreciate you putting that in. your comments there about your trade, because without you asking for an opinion, then nobody gains. So the fact that you've kind of you've come forward and said, look, how about this? Then it does help everybody, really. I think anyway. It can kind of it can really solidify what we should be doing with trading, and sometimes that's what we need, just to kind of a little bit of a reminder of the way that we should be where we should be managing things. So appreciate your input as well, buddy.
Absolutely. Keep the questions coming, mind you, and the offerings of your trades. And if you'd like our opinion on them, happy days. That's exactly what this show is all about. If you're trading pound Aussie and you're trading on a small time frame, you'd be pretty happy with what you're seeing, to be fair. But if you're thinking about getting into the market right now, and I'm going to give you a very, very strong insight as to how I trade the 30-minute charts. And I'm going to tell you that there's no possible way I'd be going short here. No possible way. Okay, yes, I'm in a short, but on a 30-minute chart right now, if I were, no, I'd probably trade Ash's money short, but I wouldn't trade my own money short here. And the reason is twofold. Number one, and this is the most important part. Number one is I have, let me see how many pips I've got. I've got 270 pips between price and an untested daily pivot. Now, what I'll give you an exercise to do, guys. Just go back as far in your charts as you want and count how many times there is a gap of 272 pips between price and an untested daily pivot. There you go. There's your daily exercise. Without an untested daily pivot is the key there, right? And what I'm suggesting to you is, when you've got such a scenario, trading away from that untested daily pivot is fraught with danger, because the daily pivot is a magnet to intraday price. If you're on a daily chart, who gives a crap because your stop loss is up here, right? Daily pivot gets tested, who cares? Doesn't matter. It can fall away again. But if you're trading on a 30-minute chart, the chances of going up here are still very strong before it continues the trend. So that's why I'm in a no long, no short situation here. Can't go short because of that reason, number one. Reason number two is I'll be trading straight into a support level. So there's no short there for me. Is there a long? Look, I would trade that long if I had a very good reason to do so. But the reason would need to be twofold. It would need to be a very clear reversal pattern followed by a higher low. There is the hint of a reversal pattern right there. I think Ash calls that a morning star, but it's a 3-candle pattern that suggests that there is price about to rally.
That would qualify.
Yep.
It's not classic, but it would qualify.
So then I would be looking for a higher low, and I don't have that yet. So until that happens, there's no trade there. This is going to be a very common theme throughout every single one that I'm going to show you. And there's a reason for it, guys. The reason for it is that the market hasn't changed polarity, but it's stepped on the accelerator. It stepped on the accelerator and said, we are going this direction. And that's tied a whole lot to risk on, risk off, as we've been discussing earlier. We are in a risk on situation right now. That's why the FTSE's rallying. That's why the Aussie's rallying. That's why the Kiwi's rallying. And there is a distinct bearishness about the US dollar right now. The US dollar index has snuck below 100, pardon me, today. And there is no real support for it for another probably 200 odd pips. So it seems to be in a free fall at the moment. That's why you're seeing the risk on currencies rally as such. It may well be that the daily pivot doesn't get tested today. That's perfectly normal for that to happen. in a situation such as this where the market has put its foot on the accelerator. That still won't get me short here, because that is still in play. And one day we'll go through that and give you a very sound reason as to why that's the case. It's a very low percentage trade to trade away from an untested daily pivot when it's got such a gap. Pound CAD is a little bit different because we do have a tested daily pivot. And could I have traded that? No, because there's just no room there for me to get in. I like to trade this as a false break. Well, there's no signal here to tell me that that is false yet. It's just gone bang and away we go. And that's the nature of the pound at the moment. You know, it's the most volatile currency on the charts as far as I can see. So
is that for the day, mate? Is that because today it's the most volatile, or have you seen this kind of happening
that's in general? That's
in general
over a period of time. Yep.
Right.
Yep. It just moves in a crazy fashion. And that's why it's very difficult to trade on a 30-minute chart. And that's why I'm not trading on a 30-minute chart. So
yeah,
classic little scenario here. If you're a scalper, you'd see that candle and you just have a little bit of a hissy fit and go, oh, I'm in. And you'd probably be out by now. But I'm not a scalper, so I need to have the right signals there, and it's not there on pound CAD. CAD Swiss, you can notice straight away that there's an untested daily pivot below us. We are at a level of resistance, which is the top of this channel. So despite and I am in this trade. Sorry, I was in this trade long. I'm now out of it. I wish I was in it. If I get back to the pivots today, which is 100% my bias because of what I've just said to you, then I would look to get back into this. But it's now looking a little bit toppy to me. Really is looking a little bit toppy to me. So have we reached the top and we're now going to go to the bottom? Maybe. But I've still got a little bit of a bullish outlook on that. And the reason I do is, you remember the tweezer top I showed you on pound Aussie? Well, there's a big tweezer bottom sitting there right now on CAD Swiss. Again, going back to the oil story, it all depends on oil pretty much, this particular cross, because the CAD is so buddy-buddy with oil for obvious reasons. I've spoken about pound Kiwi. There's no trade there for me at the moment, but I do note that we're in a nice little range sitting here. Somewhat of a double bottom, somewhat of a higher low, but the other thing is I can't trade straight into an untested daily pivot because it's likely to bounce me away. Euro yen, look, I find it very, very difficult to be bullish the euro. But if I look at the daily chart, we have come back inside the range. So a pullback here, maybe to the weekly pivot, may get me interested in trading it to the top of the range. Maybe even to the monthly pivot on the 4-hour chart. In fact, I'll put something in there that may look a little bit exciting. Well, not exciting, but familiar to you guys. So here we go. Broken support, consolidated, back above the support area. If I got the retest here, then I would be interested in trading that long. We do have a tested daily pivot below us, so that's not an issue. So euro yen's definitely on the watch list on the 4-hour chart. So if you see in 3 hours and 10 minutes time that this candle has found its way back to here, then enter above it, stop loss below it. Euro pounds, again, this shows the volatility of the pound, and wow, it's like a bungee rope, isn't it? It's up and down like father's pants. So I really can't give you a strong indicator there, except to say that if it got back to the monthly pivot, and we've been through this, then I'd look to trade it short again. Euro CAD, yeah, all over the shop like a mad woman's breakfast. And I see.
I think these should be the quotes of the day.
These are the quotes of the day. It's interesting to be an Australian because we've got all of these coming out of our mouths every single day. Yeah, exactly right. So we've got a base formed here, but gee whiz, we're not going anywhere anytime soon by the look of it. This is going to break out. This is really going to break out. It's waiting for oil, I believe. And if oil were to crash, then you'll see Euro CAD back up to here. If oil was to rally again, then you'll see it disappear off the face of the planet. So same's going to apply to CAD yen. That looks to be going okay now. CAD yen. Yep. Really nothing to do here, I suppose. On the 30-minute chart, we've gone through where we need to go through if we were looking to trade it back. There is an untested daily pivot, so there's no way I'd be trading this long if I'm not in the trade. I am in the trade, I'm fortunate to say, and nothing to do there. Aussie Swissy on 30-minute charts is looking like a nice little top here. Bearish engulfing bar, lower high. Don't like the candle. And here's another interesting insight. When I look to trade these reversal bars at or higher lows, I'll give you what I like to trade. I'll take a note of that one. It's a bearish bar, right? And a lot of people would be looking at that thinking, okay, let's go short. I'm not of that ilk. What I'd much rather see is this candle, which has got bullish connotations about it. And the reason is because it gives me an insurance policy. If I'm wrong here and this continues to go long, I won't be taken into the trade. But if I'm right here and the bulls are not in charge, in fact, they're coming off and this tweezer top's going to be converted into a short, then my entry here is pretty safe because it's going to gather momentum as it goes through that level. And as I said to you yesterday, this is a classic false break of a range, this one right here. The candle's not perfect, but because it's bullish, I'd much rather trade that than I would, what cross was I looking at? Aussie Swissy, than I would a bearish bar. Now, you'll get 100,000 trend traders jumping on my back saying you're an idiot. That's fine. I don't mind being an idiot as long as I'm right. Right idiots are I'm very happy to be a right idiot. And I do like insurance policy. Absolutely. So now you've got real good reasons to know why I'm not trading the 30-minute charts at the moment, because they're in what I call NLNS land, no long, no short land. Can't go short because I don't have a reason to. And I can't go long because I can't trade away from that untested daily pivot. That's pretty much the theme.
Well, should we deal with some of these comments and questions in the box? So first of all, we'll go back to Crystal. So Crystal's asking, do you guys check the news before trading? Personally, that's what I would do religiously. You know, I want to know what has been happening in the Asian session. I want to know what I have in front of me. It can dictate what's happening on the longer term, but there you know, the thing with news and data is that there are some that are near-term significant, and there are some that are long-term significant. So I like to know as much as I can, you know, before I sit down in front of the charts. And if I'm looking for a short in something, but something has happened which suggests that it's going to be a day, if I'm looking for a short in something, usually it's because my fundamental long-term bias is in that direction. But if something has happened overnight that suggests that the timing is wrong, then I want to know that and potentially trade it in that direction as well. Same for you, Jeff?
Not really. My answer is, my religion is the daily pivot, as you'll get to know. My second religion is the weekly pivot, and my third religion is the monthly pivot. But I wouldn't go into a 30-minute trade without knowing what the news is and what's coming up. I don't enter on a 30-minute chart anywhere prior to news. After news, no drama, but prior to news, no. Too dangerous.
So it depends on your style, I suppose, Crystal, with that.
Does,
you know, my style is very much I want to know what the fundamentals are, what's driving the market. And one of the reasons is because there's nothing worse than getting into a trade and then finding out it's gone the wrong way and not understanding why. You've got the perfect setup and then all of a sudden it goes against you. But if you look at the data, even if you don't understand the data, but looking at the data to understand that there was a release then the chart will tell you what the reaction of the market was after the release. So I think it's important to know at least when these things are released and what has been said and at what point. So when you look at your charts, they make sense. News makes moves. You know, that's the kind of mantra that I always follow. So that's why I want to know what's going on. The cup and handle, just go back over this. So we were talking about some of the patterns that are in the market, and the FTSE 100 is just displaying a cup and handle, and the cup and handle pattern is is a reversal pattern. It's a bullish pattern. Happens at the bottom end of a trend, and you will see a cup. Oh, let me just change the color. You'll see a cup like this one, and then you see the handle like that one, and it will have a neckline like that. So for this to be bullish, then it's going to get through this level, and there are two ways to measure. You either measure from the low end of the handle to the neckline, or you'd measure from the low end of the cup to the neckline. And the question about which one is relevant, in my opinion, it's always going to be about confluence. So whatever else, you know, if you sort of if you were to measure that one, then that takes us to an area where these levels are marked off anyway. So it's suggesting that the handle is probably the most likely, certainly in this particular scenario. But you know, I want some price points. It depends where it breaks out, but I want some price points when I look at the cup and handle. But the handle would be the one that I would suggest it's going to get to, and obviously it's going to get there before it gets to the cup anyway. So probably better to be conservative and start to understand that this area does now have a maybe two reasons, maybe more. We haven't done any fibs on this to suggest that we have a price point that we should be looking at. So that was that. And they don't appear that often, but they do when they do appear, we need to know what they are. The double cross they're asking you about as well, Jeff. Ravinder saying about the monthly pivot. So the thing about the thing about the testing the monthly pivot and it forming a bearish bar in the 4 hour is not of huge relevance in my opinion, because at this stage, now we are long. Really, at this stage, we don't want to focus on the bar. What we want to focus on is the area. So if we're long and we're safe, then that's the lowest area was there, and then the lowest area was there, and now the lowest area is here. So seeing a bearish bar, all that could happen here is that it does provide some short-term resistance. It comes down to a level and then it bounces through. So I'm not interested in any of these bars anymore. I'm only interested in the grouping. You know, where does it come down to and turn? Because it might end up turning here anyway. And the thing is with this bar, this 4 hour bar, I get why you'd say that is bearish, but when you look at it in a bit of detail, what's this bar done? You know, it opened at the high and it closed at the lows, but look at the tails on it. It tried to get down and popped up at the end of the session. It tried to get up and pop down. This is called a spinning top. And you know, it almost reacts similarly to a doji. In some scenarios, you would trade the spinning top. And you would trade it in the direction that you believe the market would go. You know, this is a spinning top here, but the spinning top, and there's another one here which provided a candle to enter on to the upside. So if you're at these lows and you believe the market's going up, then yes, you know, you could utilize the break of that particular price point to take your longs. But right now, there's no reason this spinning top should start to define downside. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to get it eventually, but at this stage, that spinning top for me is just a bit of a misnomer, and I'm not really that interested in doing anything about it. So so not that bearish in my opinion. Just a bit of it. It's kind of indecisive at this particular stage. So nothing to see here. Helen, you've done great. Reading about the lockdown in announcement in Abe's request for the US monetary helped on Monday night and cancelling the yen trades that you contemplated, which is brilliant. That's what it's about, isn't it?
They're the
Stay on
things
top
you've
of the
got to know.
news.
You've got to know those things.
Yeah. Yeah, really good. So can you explain the double cross again, mate? And then we'll probably wrap it up because we're right on the edge of the hour. So let's pass you the screen. You can do that.
I can. And Helen, a mad woman's breakfast, if you can imagine, I don't know if you've got a child or ever had a child, but generally when they're very young and you start feeding them with a spoon, as I've done, then the breakfast finishes up all over me, all over the floor, all over the table, etc., etc., etc. A mad woman is very much a regression into childhood, and I've seen it. Very, very similar result. So their breakfast finishes up all over the room. So when I say all over the place like a mad woman's breakfast, that's pretty much what I mean. The chart, the price action is incisive, and it's going nowhere, or it's going everywhere, and that creates a problem. There is another version of it that's not as nice.
Not as polite.
No.
Yeah. Just to quickly answer fans' question, after the cup and handle, will it usually go bullish, or is the second part of the setup to confirm? The thing about the cup and handle and any of these patterns is that they tend to work out 30% of the time. So it's the only two places you can pick up a cup and handle is at the low end of the handle or after breakout of the neckline. I wouldn't suggest getting into the cup and handle right while it's on the neckline, because it's still got a decent chance to fail. There's still resistance there,
Yes, Raymond, absolutely right. Dog's breakfast is exactly the same connotation. You're absolutely spot on. What am I doing? Double cross. Okay.
Double cross, mate. Yeah.
Double crosses. Yeah, look, one of my favorite plays, I've got to say. Where did we trade a double cross in the last day or so? There, CAD Swiss, there's one. I think we'll see it on maybe the 4-hour chart best. No, not really. Where did I trade a double cross? I've traded 2 or 3 of them in the last couple of days. I'm sure I have. I've got to find the right time frame.
Didn't you see one earlier though?
I did. I was talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
There's probably one there. If I look at that on a bigger time frame, there's one there. That may be the one I was looking at actually on Euro Aussie. So yes. Here's the thing. What we're looking for is, and they work better with the trend, I've got to say, there's no question about that. What we're looking for is, you can see how prices has got below the daily pivot, above the daily pivot, then it breaks through the daily pivot. The very next bar gives you a bullish reply. Now, the more decisive both of those bars are, the better the result will be. On this particular occasion, you would place your entry short there. You might want to sneak your stop loss above here or even above the pivots just to be safe. But traditionally you would, 5 or 6 pips above the candle. So you'd get taken in here. Then you get another show and go, if you like. You might even have got taken out there if you had your stops. And here's a great lesson. Here's a great lesson for now. Traditionally, I would place my stop above that bar. We are in a very volatile market at the moment, and we keep banging on about this, but it's a very good case in point. Got to get your stops wide. Just got to. You got to put them in obvious places and then tack on some, because the market is relentless here. It's not going to give you, or remorseless, sorry. It won't give you an opportunity. It'll just take it away from you and then go precisely in the direction that you wanted. And here's the double cross that we actually traded, right, on Euro Aussie. Not as clear because we've only got let's call it 2/3 of a decisive bar. I'd really like that to be a bar that looks like that one there, rather than that. Then there's not much difference. But the key is that we're going with trend. We've broken to the low side, and then we've got an instant reply from the bulls that couldn't take out the high of the bar, number one, but I don't even care if it does that. In fact, sometimes it's better if it does take out the high of the bar. And the theory is this. Again, I explained it earlier. If we're wrong here, then the bulls are in charge and the market's going to here. Cool, I don't care. But if the market's wrong, or if these guys aren't really in control, then as soon as they come back below this bar, there's going to be sellers all over it. They're just going to jump in here. And that's exactly what happened. So when you are looking for a double cross, if they cross 2 pivots, happy days. That just adds to the flavor. So I hope that explains it a little bit better. You know, this is a trade that you just can't not take if you're a slingshot trader, because it's got slingshot written all over it. It's got double cross. It's got hit and run. Oh yeah, happy days. If I didn't trade that, I'd be kicking myself up the Khyber Pass right now. Pound Aussie. Was that a double cross?
No, I think he meant the Euro Aussie.
Okay.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
about,
got
yeah.
it. Yep.
Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap it up anyway. We are continuing to manage the trades that we are in. FTSE taking a little bit of a dive back to the monthly pivot again, so just waiting to see how that develops. But yeah, we'll just leave things as they are for right now. I'm not interested in doing anything. I don't see any sell signals that suggest to me at this stage that we are doing anything but staying where we are. If the picture changes, then there's every chance that we get the opportunity in the morning to trade it.
Not sure the picture's going to change too much, mate. I think we're in a little bit of a, I don't know, eye of the storm, shall we call it?
Yes, I think you're right. And that's why it's just better to you know, give things some room and face it back. When this market does turn in the opposite direction, then I want to be right on top of it and right on board with it. But for right now, while it's moving up, I think we just you know, take what's on offer. You know, I will be looking for my main profit off this market to be to the downside. So I'm not really too worried what I get to the upside, you know. So I'm quite happy to give it some room, just in case it continues to defy gravity and keeps going. So for right now, I'm sticking where I am and not doing anything.
Cheers, guys, for the cheers. And I will have a good night, Peel. Thank you. One thing, just to back up what you just said there, I know we've got to go, but we just like talking, I think. When the market's whispering to you, it's generally a good sign to ignore it. When the market's screaming at you, that's when you go.
Yes.
So wait for the big sound. And it does. It screams at you. It really does.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Thank you, mate. I will speak to you tomorrow in the morning, 5 to 8, as always.
Don't be late, because that's the date. See you guys.